Hi guys, so we are up to 1 Samuel chapter 3. This chapter begins with Samuel, who is ministered before the Lord under Eli. Now, this one night, Samuel keeps hearing someone call him, so he gets up and he goes to Eli and says, "Did you call me?" And this happens several times, and Eli continues to say, "No, I didn't call you, go back to sleep." Then they realize that it's actually the Lord calling him. And this is really important because during those times, which kind of reminds me almost of the times we're in now, there is not a lot of prophecy. There's not a lot of people hearing the Lord, which if you look around at our world today, you can see a lot of that. The Lord does call you, but a lot of people don't hear him. And that to me is really sad, very sad. He says here at 1 Samuel chapter 3, and I am going to read verse 8. A third time the Lord called Samuel, and Samuel got up and went to Eli and said, "Here I am, you called me." Then Eli realized the Lord was calling the boy. So Eli told Samuel, "Go and lie down, and if he calls you, say, 'Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening.'" And that's exactly what Samuel did. Samuel said, "Speak, for your servant is listening." And it does go on because Samuel is a very important prophet during this time. And eventually Eli dies and Samuel becomes a prophet for Israel. And as we go further into the chapter, you'll see that they go to war with the Philistines. And the Philistines actually steal the Ark of the Lord. And the one thing about that is that they steal it, but then everybody becomes ill. So they don't know what to do, so they give it to someone else, and then they all become ill, and then this continues till it gets back. But it's a lot of reading, I found it a little bit confusing at different times, but it's very interesting to read about how things happened then, because it was the time of the judges, and the Israelites wanted a king. They wanted to be like other nations, and so they asked Samuel for a king. But Samuel told them that the Lord said no, that the Lord was their king. And the people turned away from God because they said, "No, we want a king. We want to be like everyone else." So the Lord agreed, and he picked out Saul, who was their king. But unfortunately, it didn't work out very well, because that's when they went into war. And so Saul didn't follow what the Lord wanted, and he again turned away from God. And so he failed. So God appointed a new king, which is where we're going to get into David, which is the story I've been really interested in learning. From Samuel, this would be 12:14. If you fear the Lord and serve and obey him and do not rebel against his commands, and if both you and the king who reigns over you follow the Lord God, then good. But if you do not obey the Lord, and if you rebel against his commands, his hand will be against you as it is against your ancestors. And this is what happens if you turn away from God. And we see this even today. We see this in countries now. If you turn away from God, what happens? They took God out of schools, and what happened? We started having a lot of violence in schools. So it really rings true today, is that you need to keep God close, you need to keep him with you, and you need to not turn away from him, because he will lift his hand from you. And without God's protection, you're not going to do well in life. So anyways, that's chapter 3. And then coming up, we'll read about King David. So, when God is with you, God protects you. And again, it doesn't mean, as I've said in other videos, you won't have problems, because you will have problems. But when you have those problems, taking them and handing them to him and letting him help you deal with them and give you the wisdom of what to do, tell you what to do through those situations. And unfortunately, during this time, the Israelites really wanted a king. They thought that if they had the king would fight their battles. and would take care of everything for them. And what Samuel tried to explain to them is, no, if this happens, he's going to take your children to fight for wars, and it's going to be more difficult to get food. And he tried to explain it to them, but they didn't want to listen. They didn't want to put their faith in God because they wanted what they wanted. And I see that a lot today. I think that when you put your faith in God, you put your trust in God, that you'll have an amazing life. So that's it. So thanks for watching. Someone else was watching. I didn't know she was behind me there. Thanks for watching, everybody. This is Mandy. Did you like my Bible study? Yeah? Yeah. She's a pretty girl. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a beautiful day.